Welcome to this brief lecture entitled Infrastructure in Housing. This session forms part of our module on policy and draws upon findings from the Reroute project. Throughout this presentation, we will share key insights and offer policy recommendations informed by our research. Housing constitutes far more than mere physical shelter. It plays a fundamental role in ensuring the social reproduction, dignity, and social incorporation of newcomers. The sharp increase in arrivals to Europe, which reached a peak in 2014, exposed critical weaknesses in existing housing and accommodation systems. Across many European countries, public and private housing infrastructures were already under strain. As a result, many newcomers were left reliant on temporary shelters, overcrowded facilities, and informalized networks. These challenges were compounded by bureaucratic inefficiencies within reception systems and by instances of discrimination, both within official frameworks and from segments of the local population. Certain groups, including unaccompanied minors and LGBTQ+ individuals, encountered even greater obstacles in securing stable and secure housing. Without such housing, other fundamental aspects of life, such as employment, education, healthcare, and community participation, are significantly compromised. The Reroute project encourages us to understand housing not simply as shelter, but as a central infrastructure of arrival. Housing challenges are not incidental or localized. Rather, they reflect deeper structural inadequacies within Europe's systems of housing and migration governance. In response to these shortcomings, a number of innovative practices have emerged. These include cooperative housing, co-housing arrangements, and the adaptive reuse of abandoned urban spaces. Reroute advocates for a paradigm shift, recognizing housing as a strategic component of incorporation. This shift requires a movement beyond temporary measures, calling instead for enduring political commitment, sufficient financial investment, and stronger partnerships with grassroots actors and community-led initiatives. Our research identified a series of intersecting barriers that collectively obstruct access to adequate housing for newcomers. These include severe shortages of affordable and decent accommodation, discriminatory practices by landlords, brokers, and sometimes public officials, and overcrowded facilities with substandard living environments, particularly in reception centers. On the other hand, reliance on kinship networks while providing crucial support in many cases remain unsustainable and in other cases problematic. Moreover, complex and opaque bureaucratic procedures contribute to long delays and significant confusion. Gendered vulnerabilities are also evident, with women, especially single mothers, and other vulnerable groups being susceptible to abuse, economic coercion, and precarious living conditions. Finally, spatial segregation remains a critical issue, often relegating newcomers to isolated and underserved urban peripheries. These structural obstacles do not merely complicate daily life. They actively hinder newcomers' ability to incorporate and contribute meaningfully to society. Despite these formidable barriers, newcomers are not passive recipients of systems failure. Rather, they exhibit considerable agency and creativity in responding to housing challenges. Across Europe, we have documented the emergence of informal or informalized housing networks within migrant communities, the establishment of co-housing initiatives, and the repurposing of abandoned buildings for residential use. In addition, various forms of community support, some arising in less expected places such as schools, have played a crucial role. Reroute conceptualizes these efforts as infrastructuring otherwise. This term captures the ways in which newcomers forge alternative housing pathways in the absence of adequate or reliable institutional support. However, such initiatives often exist within fragile legal grey zones and are frequently denied the stability and recognition required for long-term viability. Effectively addressing the housing challenges faced by newcomers demands coordinated action across all levels of governance. At the European Union level, housing must be recognized as a fundamental right rather than a discretionary privilege. The EU has the authority to establish and enforce minimum housing standards that guarantee safety, dignity and social inclusion, irrespective of an individual's legal status. Moreover, funding instruments such as the Asylum, Migration and Integration Fund and the European Social Fund should be expanded to support sustainable, community-based housing initiatives that prioritize long-term resilience over short-term emergency responses. At the national level, it is important to address the systemic barriers that perpetuate housing precarity. This includes addressing discriminatory and restrictive housing regulations and eligibility criteria, ensuring fair access to housing support regardless of residency status, increasing the supply of affordable and social housing, and empowering local authorities to develop and implement context-specific housing policies in collaboration with grassroots and civil society organizations. At the local level, it is crucial to foster inclusive and community-integrated housing responses. This entails developing affordable housing that is socially embedded and encourages interaction between newcomers and local residents, supporting grassroots initiatives that provide accommodation and essential services, and ensuring the availability of safe, inclusive and culturally sensitive housing solutions tailored to the specific needs of vulnerable groups, including women and LGBTQ individuals. Ensuring equitable access also requires clear guidance mechanisms and stronger accountability in the regulation of local housing markets. In conclusion, housing should not be treated as a peripheral concern, as it provides the foundation for incorporation, minor integrations, and more broadly, for a livable and socially connected life. Newcomers bring remarkable resilience, creativity, and strength. These contributions must be met with an adequate level of political will. This means dismantling systemic barriers to housing access, valuing and scaling up community-driven initiatives, and constructing inclusive housing infrastructures by design. Only through such collective efforts can we build communities in which all residents, including newcomers, can feel a true sense of care and belonging. The Reroute project offers a range of practical insights and evidence-based recommendations to guide this transformation. To explore this further, we invite you to visit our website at rerouteproject.eu. Thank you for your attention.